We'll call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. We'll move right to agenda adoption. We have any agenda changes this evening? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion approved, Mayor.
Got a motion on the floor, properly second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Invocation today, Venture Church, Dave Henderson.
Let's pray. God, I'm so thankful for this town. I'm thankful for the leadership that you've established and through your people here. And we are grateful for those who have served faithfully. And we're grateful for those who are stepping into this role. And we just ask, Lord, that you would give them wisdom to lead this community well. We're grateful for the peace and the hope that we have here and the opportunity that's here, God, that you've allowed us to all put our heads together and create better places. And so we ask, Lord, that you give us the wisdom to do that. Always pray, Lord. We know love is just paramount, and particularly loving our neighbors as much as we love ourselves. And so we just pray that you would help each of us look out for our neighbors in this community through this time. And we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a special presentation, retirement plaque for Dale Freeman.
I'd like to invite Dale Freeman to join us up here on the stage. So Dale Freeman is our Parks and Recreation Facilities Maintenance Supervisor. Dale has been with the town of Harrisburg for 17 years, and he is looking forward to retirement. So his retirement will come at the end of this month. Dale was actually the very first Parks and Recreation maintenance employee that the town ever hired. And so when he was first brought on board, he was responsible for taking care of Harrisburg Park. It was the only park that we had at that time. We've now grown and added several parks since that time, but a lot of the things that you see in Harrisburg Park today, like the cherry tree groves and the landscaping around the library, this guy had an integral part and a hand in putting that all in himself, by himself. So we just want to take this opportunity to present Dale with this beautiful crystal plaque that recognizes him for his years of service here with the town of Harrisburg. And you're definitely going to be missed in the Parks and Recreation Department. You're going to take a lot of institutional knowledge with you, so make sure you don't leave without giving us your phone number, because I know we're going to need to call you. He knows where all the irrigation lines and everything is out there at that park, so we're going to definitely be calling on you. So you're not done with us yet, but we sure hope that you enjoy retirement, and we thank you for all of your service to the town of Harrisburg.
All right, we're going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to address council at this time for anything that's on your mind? Approach the podium. And seeing none, we'll move to consent agenda adoption.
Move for approval, Mayor.
Got a motion on the floor? Second. Properly second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Town manager monthly report.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, just want to take an opportunity to thank our Parks and Recreation Department for a fantastic Christmas tree lighting event this past Friday here in Town Center. Appreciate all the residents that were able to come out and enjoy that. We had a great turnout. We had great weather. So just a fantastic event, and want to take the time to acknowledge the Parks and Recreation staff for their effort. Dale, your effort in doing that as well. But they also, believe it or not, got the Christmas tree that was located here behind Town Center, or Town Hall, down today and up in Veterans Park. So that was quite a feat by the maintenance staff today to get that accomplished. But a beautiful tree there in Veterans Park for us to enjoy the rest of the holiday season. Also want to update council and anyone in the audience that's not aware yet, but we were fortunate enough to get the four-way stop sign installed at Tom Query and Caldwell Road. So that went live last Friday, and so thanks to the Public Works Department for pushing NCDOT to get that approval and get that done. That was something that the town did on our own there at that NCDOT intersection. So that's a temporary solution as we work towards the installation of a signalized intersection there. So we're going through the design part of that now, and we'll eventually have a signalized intersection at that location in about 1.5 to 2 years. That's how long it'll take us to go through the environmentals, the easement acquisitions, and the installation of that. So we put the four-way stop in as a temporary solution, and so far it's functioning well for us. And I know we've received some positive feedback from residents already related to that. Also want to update council and the residents that we have just submitted our request for proposals for the update to our Unified Development Ordinance. So as we receive responses from consultants on that, we will keep everybody abreast of that project as it moves forward, because it will certainly be something we want public input on and council input on as we go through that process. Also just want to update the public that the town council will be holding their annual council retreat on January 11th. So that's coming up. This is a real high-level planning meeting that the council gets together and meets and sort of sets the visions and priorities for the upcoming budget year for staff to move forward with. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Lee Connor, our assistant manager, for a very brief finance report. Very brief.
Good evening. I will do my very best. You know, that's one of the challenges I have, but I'll do my best here. So getting into the finance report, a lot of this you'll see, we haven't had a bunch of real big changes from the last few months. You know, we've been continuing to watch the tax collection. Those numbers are continuing to come in. They've been building over the last month, and December and January we'll get the final big push for the money. So over the next couple months, you should see this red go away. So we'll keep you posted on that. One of the areas is parks that we've been kind of keeping an eye on too. As we've kind of shown, it's been bouncing between the red and the yellow, and that's again primarily because of the July 4th happening all at one time, and then the fall sports. So that one tends to be kind of cyclical with the different sports times that we have, as well as the July 4th. Projects, we haven't had, we've been moving forward with a lot of these, not a whole bunch of changes. The facility signage, the branded, we have that should, we did get a chance to meet with the electrician and get a quote on that, so we should be getting those illuminated soon. As far as the multi-year projects, the transportation bonds, I just wanted to point out that we have completed a majority of the work on the streets for the street resurfacing, that project for the bonds this year. We have a few patching areas left to do, but that's mostly been complete. And the intersection improvements relating to the bonds, so you should be seeing in the next, I believe mostly in January, but some in February, we'll begin to get the contracts before council for consideration for the design of these intersections. And again, let's just continue on with the transportation bonds. We're continuing to work on the emergency generator. Hopefully the next couple of months that'll be up at Public Works. These projects, I know again, these are some more that we've been highlighting for the last few months. We are looking at February to March for those to be delivered from the manufacturer, so we should have those moved to complete in the next few months. And our plans, our law enforcement feasibility study, transportation plan, those both are continuing to move forward without much change as far as the due dates, so we still plan on getting those to you as we've been discussing. So a couple other little things just to mention. We should be delivering the audited financial statements next month at the council meeting, so we'll be presenting that. We also should in the next couple months be moving forward with the financing for the bond projects. So we'll keep you updated on that as well. Most of the other stuff here are things that we've had some discussion about. So trying to wrap up, any questions? I'll be more happy to answer.
Whoa, that was great.
Hey, Lee, is the police study not due till June 30th? Is that what I said?
That, we have that through the end of the year, but we were looking at January, February timeframe is.
Yeah, and we're still on pace for January, February for completion of that.
Will we get to see something preliminary at the retreat?
We can shoot for that. It's, right now, they're in the process of collecting data from the sheriff's department, so it's just a matter of time for them to get that, collect that, process that, and prepare a report for us.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
No, sir.
I just have a few things, and this is not for action tonight. I'm just going to throw it out there. Last night I was approached by somebody who's interested in the fire station. Dream On 3, if you're familiar with that organization, it helps children through the use of sports that for whatever illnesses or disabilities that they may have. They would like to make Harrisburg a national headquarters for themselves. They're actually looking between D.C., Atlanta, and here, and they were inquiring about the fire station, not necessarily to purchase it, but to upfit it and then lease it back from the town. I did have a conversation with Haynes earlier today. We know that that station has lots of other opportunities like sewer problems, and there's lots of problems. I'm just throwing it out there, not sure where it's going to go next, but I'd let the person know that I would at least throw it out at council for something to consider. Obviously, we know that property is probably worth somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple $100,000, give or take a few dollars, based on where it's situated next to the other blank piece of property. So it's something to think about. We can pursue a little further with discussions, but I think when they realize the status of that building or the condition of that building would basically be better off leveling it, it might not be so appealing to them. But they want to consider Harrisburg as their home. I think the founder actually lives in Harrisburg, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and just for a point of information, that property is zoned office and institutional, but that is just that lot that the fire station is on. The corner lot is actually owned by a private citizen, and that is actually zoned low-density residential. The HALOP and the zoning for all four of those corners there at Robinson Church Road and Rocky River Road are designated for low-density residential. So that's something that as we move maybe into the council retreat and through the budget work sessions, we can have conversations about what we see for development at those intersections, because that will dictate and determine what the possible outcome or use of that building could be and the value of that property as a result. So those are things that we can keep in mind and discuss as we move forward.
So we've had this discussion numerous times, and I understand Old Charlotte Road is always to be a fire station. We're using it, I guess you say, as storage right now. Is that even an opportunity for these guys?
Probably not on the deed restriction that's there on that.
Go back and look at that property is restricted to, I think, to being used for fire purposes.
Yeah, there's a deed restriction on that for fire purposes only, so I don't know that that location would be a viable one, but good thought.
So what I'll do is I'll have this person reach out to you guys, and maybe there's some other opportunities in Harrisburg. They can certainly consider the fire station, but I just don't believe that that'd be the most economically feasible for them based on what they would have to do to outfit it.
And just by state law, we can't donate it even to a nonprofit. The only property that we can give away to is to another
And they're not looking
government
for that. They
entity.
were actually looking to lease back
Leasing-
from the
oh,
town.
leasing back.
If that was even an option, they would assume not try to pay the $200,000, but lease it back after they upfit it. That was their suggestion. So I'll have them reach out and we can
Yep.
just kind of see what you guys come
Just
up
keep
with.
in mind, just be thinking about maybe what you see for that intersection location in general, so that we can have some good direction when we get to those conversations.
Boards and committees, so I sent out an email, so if you guys can try to give me your thoughts before the end of the month, because I'd like to really get everybody in place in January as the new meetings crank back up for January. So if you can take one more look at that list and make sure you get that back to me, we'll go ahead and get that set up. Obviously, in January, we'll go ahead and vote on Mayor Pro Tem, which is customary, and we'll go ahead and resolve that. And then typically, after the council switches over, we'll do the seat shuffle. So where you're sitting today is probably not where you'll be sitting tomorrow. So January, you'll be surprised where your seat is. We'll fix that up. Usually, we try to alternate old to new, making sure that somebody can lean to the person next to them to ask questions. So that's all I have. I will go to council for comments. Yes, ma'am.
First, I had a question. Are we going to replace the flag at Veterans Park? It needs to be a bigger flag.
Yeah, so we've actually had several folks comment on that, and we'd love direction from council on how we wish to move forward because staff doesn't have a preference. I will say that the flag that is flying there currently, the American Legion group worked with the state capitol to get that flag. And so that flag once flew over the state capitol. Mr. Suggs, I believe, had a prominent role. Stubbs, excuse me, had a prominent role in obtaining that flag. So we'll take the direction of, we can certainly order a larger flag to be more on scale. It is a larger flag than the other flags that are flying, only marginally, so it's very difficult to see by the eye. But we can certainly do that at the direction of
I'd
the
like
council.
to make that motion.
Motion on the floor to increase the size of the flag.
Second.
Properly second. All in favor, say aye.
We'll get it
We're
done.
done.
Thank you.
And I'd like to kind of say goodbye, I guess. I'll continue to pray for this group of people. And I'll pray that you work cooperatively and to build consensus. I thank Harrisburg for allowing me to serve, and I consider it a privilege to have served Harrisburg. And it has really been a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to echo some of those comments as well, but I want to thank my wife. She's here tonight. You know, being a new dad when I first got elected, could not have done this without her. So thank you, my dear. It is also my hope that you guys build consensus together and really listen to the residents while also growing our business community. And as Benita said, I have prayed. I will continue to pray for you guys and wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you.
I have two things. Sorry. On November 16th, I had the opportunity to attend the Telugu Association of Greater Charlotte's Diwali Festival, and they presented the mayor with a guest of honor for their Diwali service.
Thank you.
Pass that down for me. And then January 28th, the Youth Council will be having their next meeting, and we are so honored to have Tahisha Sheriff, our HR director for the town, to come and talk to the youth about respecting boundaries.
Haynes, I received a call over the weekend, previous council member, and I don't know if anybody else has called in or emailed. Question is, can there be some type of flashing strobe added to those four-ways? Their comment to me was that they saw a lot of cars going through, hitting the brakes after the fact, got through the intersection and realized, oh, goodness, here was a stop sign, I missed it. I thought on Hickory Ridge at one point we had some type of flashing for a while, I don't know, on that stop sign.
So there is a flashing strobe alerting of the stop ahead prior to reaching that. So that was part of our signage installation. They also put the reflective strips all the way down the post and on both sides of the roads for the stop sign. So we felt like we were going above and beyond, but we can look into that. I think probably the biggest issue is going to be cost associated with that. Those solar powered lights that we put in are about $4,000, $5,000 a piece, somewhere in there. So we wanted to do it, since we were doing it ourselves on that DOT road, we wanted to do it as inexpensively as possible, but if that's what council wishes, we can certainly look into that.
I would just make note of it and see what kind of comments we get back.
Do we want to sort of wait it out, for lack of better?
I'm fine, because like I said, I've only heard one thing so
I've
far.
heard
Okay.
several actually
Okay.
run through there, commented on that. Maybe we test one of those companies like, hey, let us try one of these out for a little bit. By that time, we'll already give it back. And
If y'all want us to install them, we'll be glad to do it.
We'd have to check with DOT. It'd be very atypical to install flasher on the actual stop sign. The stop aheads are generally where you put them to give people the opportunity to process what they're seeing and then come to a stop. Putting flashers on the signs themselves would probably not be approved by DOT. You would normally see an elevated flasher at a signal like that, like a flashing red signal.
there's not a stop ahead sign coming. There is a stop ahead. Does that say stop
Both
ahead?
directions.
There's two,
Okay.
and there's like a 10-foot by 10-foot
It was dark when I went through and
board
see.
telling you there's a stop.
I mean, I saw that.
Would some rumble strips,
It says traffic pattern change or something like that.
would rumble strips be an option? Possibly a cheaper option than flashing?
You could do them, but typically, this just went up Friday. It's gonna be 4 weeks for traffic to acclimate to a new traffic pattern. If you're still having problems
'Cause you can hear it.
Every car that goes by, 18,000 a day. So
How are we going to monitor what's happening out there? Who's actually reviewing the success or lack of?
we've got our crews looking at the AM, PM backup into Charlotte, and DOT does as well. We also will pull all the traffic accident reports at the end of 4 to 6 weeks and just see.
Can we get a report on that? Perfect.
And then the last thing is, Councilmember Conrad and Councilmember Barfield, thank you for serving and thank you for your willingness to serve.
I just got one thing I want to say is Merry Christmas to everybody here, all the council, and have a safe and joyous holiday.
Any other comments? All right. Let's get some new business going, presentation. So I'll have we'll start with Benita Conrad. Let's take a walk around.
Okay.
So we have some plaques for our outgoing council members I'd like to present. First one's for Benita Conrad. I've known Benita Conrad probably longer than I've known anybody in Harrisburg. I coached her little girl when she was this tall, and now she's a grown woman. So I know this particular person right here has done so much for Harrisburg. I'm honored to have the privilege of working with her for the past 5 years. She's done so many things, not just from a council perspective. We're talking the youth league, the Rotary Club. She's just the library. She actually helped raise the money to put that library in place. So she's done a lot of amazing things for Harrisburg, and I'm proud to call her a friend. Christopher Barfitz, I don't know him as long as I've known Benita, but we did have the past 4 years together, and I think he is genuinely somebody that was truly having Harrisburg in his heart, and the actions that he took and the decisions that he made. He looked out for the best interest of everybody, and for that I'm grateful. All right, so we're going to get to the oath of office, and we'll do it in the order that is on the agenda. So we'll go with Rodney first. If you have anybody in the audience that would like to step up and hold the Bible, please let them come forward. And anybody that you want besides you can also step forward. Unless you have your own, I'll put this down. That's great. Perfect. So if you can hold the Bible and you put your right hand up, right? All right, repeat after me. I, Rodney Dillinger,
I, Rodney Dillinger,
do solemnly swear that I will support and maintain
do solemnly swear I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and the laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
and not consistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
as councilman for the town of Harrisburg.
as councilman for the town of
So
Harrisburg.
help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. She can come up here. You gotta hold this Bible. Come on. Baby too. I know your baby son. Your son can come as well. Bring him up here. You're right. Come up here. There we go. Your left hand on there. I, Ian Patrick,
I, Ian Patrick,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
as councilman for the town of Harrisburg.
as councilman for the town of Harrisburg.
So help me God.
So help me God. Congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
Gentlemen, come take your seat.
You guys can come up here to sit though. Just pick one that's empty. Ron's family? Come up here, come up here. I, Ron Smith,
I, Ron Smith,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office as councilman for the town of Harrisburg.
the duties of my office as councilman for the town of Harrisburg.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Russo family. We're missing one. She can come up here. Come up here. I, Rick Russo,
I, Rick Russo,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as councilman for the town of Harrisburg.
as councilman for the town of Harrisburg.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right, first, new business for the new council. Set a public hearing for January 13th, 2020 to consider changes to Chapter 53 Stormwater Town of Harrisburg Code of Ordinances.
Mayor, Rob Dunham, our Public Works Director, will give a brief presentation on what this means. Obviously, we're not doing anything tonight other than setting the public hearing, but he does want to give an opportunity to present what the topic is about.
So I'm gonna refer everybody to their packet for documentation, but I did want to give a brief background on our stormwater program for those that aren't familiar with it, what it is, why we're gonna have a public hearing, and what we're doing. But the town has a stormwater program that consists of 6 minimum control measures. The background on this is it comes from the 1972 Clean Water Act. And it's something that's a mandate for towns once you are incorporated as part of a metropolitan area. So in 2008, Harrisburg became under that umbrella of the Clean Water Act, and we fall under what's called Phase 2 of that, which means we have to make sure that all of our stormwater runoff is not polluting the streams. So as part of our mandate for that, we, being you, the council has to adopt an ordinance saying what you're going to do, what your stormwater management plan is, and it has to be consistent with federal and state regulations as far as clean water. So the town has already done that. We did that back in 2009 when we began the program. And we've made subsequent updates over the years. When I started here in 2016, we had been several years without some of these updates, and we've been compiling some of the updates that we'd like to see. And then the state of North Carolina did a pretty big rewrite this year. So they have a lot of updates to definitions, standards, things like that they rolled out this year that we have to incorporate into our ordinance. So what you'll see in your packets is a red line version of the old ordinance and how we're changing it. And you'll see that most of those are terminology changes. For instance, BMP might be a term that you've heard. We certainly use it a lot, and that stands for best management practice, but we use that term interchangeably with a pond or a filter or something like that. So the state has finally updated that terminology in their laws to be a stormwater control measure, SCM. So we'll switch out a lot of BMPs for SCMs, just to be more consistent with something that cleans and detains water. The big change in there, that's something that staff has written, other than the normal changes that we're adopting throughout the state, is an addition of a low density standard for water quality. The town has never adopted a low density standard, so basically every lot is treated pretty much the same as far as impervious area. If you have, a quarter acre of impervious area, you have to treat that quarter acre, no matter if that quarter acre is part of 100 acres or a half acre. So you could have 50% impervious, you have to treat it, or you could have, 1/100th of a percent, and you'd still have to treat it the same. From a practical standpoint, what that does is it makes it very expensive and difficult to develop larger lots. And we've had several developers that have come through, and commercial and residential, who have asked, hey, do you guys have low density standards, so that we could have a development. We have one in mind out on Blackwelder Road that has about 3/4 to an acre and a half lots, and their natural vegetation is probably the most effective form of treating stormwater runoff and pollution, rather than doing a sand filter or a pond or something like that, but they really didn't get credit for it as part of our ordinance. So what we've done is we've rewritten our ordinance to put a low density standard in there, so that if your lot is primarily untouched, if it's vegetative, if it doesn't have impervious area, that you can use that as a credit towards the stormwater runoff. So that'll be the one thing you'll want to look at in your packet, and that I think most of the questions will surround in the January meeting. And if you have any questions for me now, I'd be glad to answer them.
I've got one for you real quick. And this came up at the neighborhood developer meeting this week and a half ago. And I'm asking it because I didn't know the answer, and hopefully I'll better understand at this point. But
I may or may not know off the top of my head. I'll do my best.
So BMPs, now known as SCMs.
Yes.
We understand that they need to be inspected yearly. Is that correct?
That's right.
How are we handling that today? Is the HOAs responsible for?
Our ordinance requires the owner of the SCM now, formerly BMP, to perform an annual inspection. It has to be done by a licensed engineer registered in the state of North Carolina. They have to submit that inspection to our engineering department. We'll review it. If everything checked out good, if they, they're required to give us pictures. We have a standard form of things that they need to check that show they've done the annual maintenance. If they haven't, then they're out of compliance, and we give them a period of time to fix whatever it may be. It may be that the outflow device is clogged, right? You could have trash or whatever, and they may need to get in there and clean it up. Something like that, we might give them a week. That can be done pretty quick. You may have erosion on the banks that needs seeded. If it's this time of year, that might be tougher to fix, and we may say, okay, that needs to be fixed by a certain date, and give them a certain date to get into compliance. But each one has to be inspected. It has to be inspected by a private company and submitted to the town for review.
So clearly that would fall on the HOA?
Yeah, if they're the owner. So, at some point,
Right.
it hopefully gets there for each community, but it's different for each.
And then the last question is how are they aware of the year anniversary?
We send them a letter.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Is the inspection something that they can commission us to take care of? Or do they typically hire a third party?
Yeah, and we don't offer
That
inspections.
service.
It would just be, more staff that we'd have to add for it. There are plenty of companies that provide that service, and usually those same companies provide the maintenance of it. So, usually your landscape company will partner with an engineering firm, do the inspection, tell them what to do, and then the landscape company will do the repairs.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right. Public hearing to consider amending.
We need a motion to set that public hearing.
That's right. I'll entertain a motion. Is that something? Got a motion on the floor?
Second.
Properly seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we'll get to the public hearing.
Yep. All right, Mayor and Council, I'll actually be presenting this on behalf of the Planning Department. Mr. Nepal's got a little under the weather and is struggling with his voice, so I'll try to take over, but he's available for any questions if you might have, as well as the applicant. So this public hearing tonight is to consider amending the rezoning conditions for Harrisburg Town Center project. So the Town Center project, as you'll hear me refer to tonight, refers to the development of just over 15 acres of land here in the Town Center area with mixed-use development. That mixed use includes office, retail, commercial, and residential use. This Town Center project was successfully rezoned from the previous plan unit development zoning designation to conditional city center zoning back in May of 2019. The plan, as it was presented by the applicant, allows for a little over 800,000 square feet of new build area. And you can see I've broken down there what is allowed under the rezoning: 148,000 square feet of office space, 176,000 square feet of retail and commercial space, a little over 19,000 square feet for a cultural arts center, 24,000 square feet for a central plaza and green space, and up to 333 residential condo units. As part of this rezoning application, both staff and the applicant applied 15 different conditions that were going to be met by the applicant in order for this rezoning to move forward. Here's an example of the site plan that was presented as part of that rezoning application. So just to give everybody an idea of what project we are talking about, you can see on the south side of this map here, you've got the Food Line and the Aldi. To the west, you've got Roberta Road. You've got Town Hall just there to the north of what's shown here on the vacant lot. But that vacant lot is now the Novant Medical Office building in front of Town Hall. So you can see what those 15 acres are proposed to be used and how they are proposed to be used. I've also included in the presentation here all of the 15 rezoning conditions. I won't go through each one of these, but it simply states that they have to meet all of the applicable local, state, and federal permits. They agreed to certain design criteria and building standards. They agreed to certain layouts of the property, as well as uses on the property, and to, of course, most importantly, meet the traffic impact analysis improvements that are associated with the project. Again, here are some additional ones that outline what and where and how each of those are going to be located, but I will breeze through these quickly unless anyone has any questions, because the most important and the only change that is being proposed here tonight is related to condition number 15. And again, I'll just keep these up here very briefly for folks to familiarize themselves with all of the conditions, but both the applicant and the property owner have requested that we amend condition number 15. So condition 15 currently reads that the applicant agrees that the zoning shall revert to its original PUD, plan unit development, if the applicant fails to close the land purchase by December 31st, 2019. Obviously, December 31st, 2019 is fastly approaching us. Currently, the applicant and property owner do not expect to close on the property by December 31st, so they are asking for an extension of this deadline. Prior to early November and late October, it was anticipated that a close on the property would take place in late October or mid-November, but unfortunately the applicant lost an investor that was part of the project, and has caused him to go back out and find either an additional investor to come on board or another developer to help partner with this project to move it forward. If an extension is not given, so if the council decides to take no action tonight or decides not to approve an extension, the rezoning in and of itself will officially expire after December 31st. And with that, the applicant's application and rezoning also expires. So if it does happen to expire tonight, if the council chooses to go that route, then this project may be brought back for consideration into the future, but it will have to start over in the entire conditional rezoning process and go back through all of those steps and expenses associated with that. So here tonight, it's a very simple request. Again, amending condition number 15 by 12 months. So that would extend the sunsetting or the deadline for close on the property out to December 31st, 2020. Again, both the applicant and the property owner support this request. I've met with both of them extensively over the last month or so, and they both are on the same page with moving forward to see this project come to fruition. They just need a little bit more time to make that happen. They both feel like that the 12-month period will allow them enough time to pursue additional investors or developers to make this project a reality. Unfortunately, if we're still here 12 months from now and they've yet to close on the property, then the likelihood of the project moving forward is significantly diminished at that point. So we'll assess it at that time. But both parties feel very confident that they will be able to move forward in that 12-month period. So the town council tonight has the opportunity to vote to approve this condition amendment, or you may choose to allow the conditional rezoning of town center to expire. So some of the impacts of this conditional extension, one of the questions is, what is the financial impact to the town for approving or denying this extension? And the reality is that there's no new impact associated with this. Several folks are interested in the economic development loan that was approved as part of the town center project and what happens with that. We want to make it very clear that the town has not put forward any money at this point, and the stipulations of the agreement require that the applicant is able to produce the remaining financing or investment to come forward and close on that. So no town dollars will be paid until such time that the investors or the applicant is able to fully secure their end of the bargain. So no financial impact, either pro or con, for the town making a decision one way or the other on this. There is a financial burden placed on the applicant or a potential future developer if it is not the current applicant, if the extension is denied. What we mean by that is essentially that it reverts back to the PUD, and any new development that would take place would have to go through the rezoning process all over again. So you have expenses when you go through the neighborhood meetings and the planning board and your due diligence periods and your design and all of those things. And so there's roughly about $1 million that has currently been invested in this project so far by the applicant, to give you an idea of the cost of something like this starting from the very beginning. So it can be extremely burdensome on the applicant if it were to lapse, but at the same time it still is able to be moved forward. So it speaks really to the desire of the council to see this project move forward. If we feel like it is still a viable project that the town wishes to see for the town center area, then obviously it makes sense to approve the extension. If not, it's certainly something that we can discuss. I'd like to point out one of the biggest impacts to this is the reversion back to the PUD zoning designation. From a staff standpoint, that could be a potential negative for the town. And why we say that is that the standards and the allowances of the PUD do not allow for the high impact development that you see in this town center project. And when we say high impact, we mean vertical construction, a lot packed into a small space. So the current PUD allows for single use, single parcel development, similar to what we've seen from the likes of the Meineke and the Firestones. And certainly there's nothing against those businesses, but we could see the 15 acres carved out into these single type uses versus a more impactful, higher density type development that you see in the town center project. So one of the things that's also limited under the PUD is any additional residential units is capped under the current PUD. So there'll be limitations for development of new condos or townhomes here in the town center area as well. And of course, one of the more important things is that reverting back to the PUD limits the amount of input that the town has on the development of those parcels. So how and what and why those parcels are developed, we have very little input because the PUD spells that out for them in sort of a blanket guideline that they have. So with all that being said, staff recommends that council approve the extension of this 12-month deadline for the close on the property. The reason for that is that the town council previously approved the conditional rezoning to allow this project to move forward. Due to the unexpected issues in closing on the property, both the applicant and the property owner are very interested in seeking this extension so that they may complete the sale of the property. The requested amendment to the condition 15 does not materially change the project as it's proposed, so therefore staff recommends approval of the request. With that, I will turn it over to any questions before we open up the public hearing.
I just got one question, Andrew, or comment. Since it's not going to cost us anything, and we can keep going forward, I'm support this project. I'd like to see it, like you said, nothing against the Firestone or Meineke, but I'd like to see it develop. When I first ran for council in 2011, my biggest thing was to develop this, and since it's not going to cost us any money, that I support the project.
Any other questions or comments before we open up the public hearing?
I have a question. Why can't we just make it permanent? Why are we doing it just for a year? Why don't we just go ahead and make it this from here on out?
Yeah, so that was actually a discussion that we had with the applicant and the property owner. The applicant is fine with making it a permanent parameter. The property owner, however, is not. And so we typically yield to the property owner's request when it comes to a conditional rezoning. Obviously, the property owner has to approve the applicant moving forward with their project. And for no real clear reason, the property owner is concerned that they will be permanently locked in to the development type that is proposed by the applicant. So they're worried that, say 12 months goes by and expires and they're not able to close with the current applicant, then they are stuck with the rezoning of the property, and they would have to build to that, or they would have to start over with the rezoning process all over again. So that's their biggest concern as the property owner, is they don't want to be held to somebody else's project. Even though there's ways around that from amendments to the plan, that was their biggest concern, and certainly staff respects that. Going back to the earlier point, is we feel like all three parties feel like, the town, the property owner, and the applicant feel like if this can't be resolved in 12 months, then there's a strong likelihood that the project is not going to move forward in its current condition anyway. So we're likely going to start over with a new developer or a new type of development for Town Center.
Thank you.
Yep.
We met last week, week before, and one of the things that he said was the infrastructure associated with the project, like the parking decks, which is quite sizable, as well as the transportation opportunities that the town center is going to bring. He didn't want to have to bear the cost of those items.
Yep.
Any other questions before we open? All right, we're going to open up the public hearing for those speaking for or against the extension of this rezoning. For or against? And hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and go to council for consideration.
Move for approval, Mayor.
We got a motion on the floor.
Second.
Properly seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I did.
All right, let's move to action items.
Action items, tonight I have, consistency save.
Give me one.
Since it's part of a rezoning, we have to have a consistency statement. So, based on the staff report, and that this is only an amendment of the rezoning, it is consistent with the provisions of the Harrisburg Area Land Use Plan and the plan for the development of town center, and is reasonable in the public interest.
So moved, Mr. Mayor. We got a motion on the floor.
Second.
Properly seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we'll go to action.
The only action item I have tonight is to replace the American flag at Veterans Park with a larger flag.
Anything else?
And a report on the four-way stop at Caldwell and Tom Query for council. We'll just get you some basic data information on that over the next 4 weeks.
Yes, sir.
I do have an action item. We didn't discuss it. Could we get some park and rec data? I know there's some emails back and forth. I know a couple of years ago, we used to get kind of like I don't know if it was quarterly, but we could see what sports were improving, what sports were decreasing. At the time, the last report I remember looking at, we were able to see where football was, at that time, the concussion impact was really strong. So we were starting to see a decrease there, but we were seeing an increase in flag football. Is it possible that we could get some?
We can get you participant levels for each of the sports, certainly. To give us some guidance on what we're looking for, we can also expand that data to you. We just need to understand what we're trying to achieve.
If I may comment on that, I should carry that with me. I was in the meeting. Me and Benita sat on that board. So I'm happy to say we had 901 participants sign up for basketball. Am I correct on that?
One of the things that, over the weekend, I was at an event, and it wasn't a town event. I was actually in South Carolina, and, folks were talking to me about the Parks and Rec and explaining, what their teams do, and I just want to understand the numbers better. So I can effectively, when I'm sitting down with a resident, I can say, yeah, we are seeing an increase here, or no, we're not seeing an increase there. When it comes to somebody asking me questions about the wait list, I don't always understand all that. So, as much information that we could get pushed back to us to be educated when we speak back to the residents would be helpful.
I was going to make a suggestion. Can we just not add this information to the Dropbox area that we have on a monthly basis?
It actually should be after each season, right?
Right.
There's only however many seasons. We don't have the numbers every day. So.
Right.
So that gives us the high-level numbers, and I think what Rodney was looking for is dropping down to a little bit deeper, that if we can, after the season has transpired, meaning addresses. Are we serving Cabarrus County? Are we serving only Harrisburg, Cabarrus County, and Charlotte? Is there a way to actually drop down, not going backwards in time, but going forwards, to have an itemization of where are these players coming from?
And what age group? I mean, I think it
Well,
would.
they have ties to the overall numbers anyway, so that's already exists. I think you're looking for.
But really, I am, right.
Right.
To know how many, I mean, you said in an email, Daniel, that there was only a couple of years ago, 30% that were Harrisburg residents.
We've done some geocoding before in 2016 to come up with those numbers. We could certainly do that.
And we know we have some addresses that are Charlotte that are really Harrisburg and probably,
Right.
so we know there's going to be a small margin of error with those numbers.
But going forward, every year, we need to be able to pretend, do we need to take this particular sport less? Do we need to take soccer more? Are we catering more to the people that are right over the Mecklenburg County line? I think the people out there want their tax dollars spent for their tax residents that live here. And possibility, from the email that you sent out, is that Cabarrus County is no longer really dealing with sports, that it's now going to be Concord, it's going to be Kannapolis, it's going to be Harrisburg, and it's going to be Midland. Then do we need to ask for more money somehow from Cabarrus County, because they get 74 cents on the dollar of our tax money to allow us to have more ball fields or do more for Harrisburg residents? But if they're from Charlotte, Mecklenburg, there's a problem there. And there's a problem, I think it will help us in our budget, that if people in Mecklenburg are coming and only paying $90, and that's what a person in Harrisburg's doing, I mean, did I read the email wrong? That most
No,
people-
out-of-county residents pay a higher rate than Cabarrus County residents. But Cabarrus County residents pay the same rate as a Harrisburg resident because we utilize county facilities. So if we start restricting Cabarrus County residents or charging a higher rate to Cabarrus County residents, we will lose access to county facilities, and then we will not be able to provide those sports. So if it's a monetary thing, we can come back with some financial analysis to show how the revenues that we generate from participation in sports help to cover our costs associated with providing those,
Right.
if that's what you're interested in.
And I'm not saying eliminate Cabarrus County people from using our facility. The thing is, if Cabarrus County, which we're part of Cabarrus County, and they're no longer doing, like Mecklenburg is Parks and Recreation go to the county, then we need to ask from Cabarrus County more money to use for Harrisburg facilities, because we actually have a lot of Cabarrus County people that are using our facilities. Does that make sense?
The relationship that we have with the county right now is we do not pay rental fees for their facilities that we utilize, and so that's the trade-off, is they don't give us any money, but they allow us the use of their facilities at no cost.
But isn't that changing also in the email? Is that changing, that they're going to limit that some?
Not immediately. So there is some concern that we have over access to county facilities, because the county, as they move away from Parks and Recreation, they're going to push more of the authority to manage the Parks and Recreation facilities at the schools. The schools is where they have their facilities. They're going to allow the individual schools to better understand and dictate who utilizes those facilities. But right now, today, we're not aware of any threat of that, but it is a potential threat for us in the future, which is why we're working very hard to establish enough facilities on our own to play on our own. One of the great things that Harrisburg has established itself dating back to HYA is that we're able to play internally, meaning that all of our sports can play here in Harrisburg. We don't have to travel to Concord or Kannapolis to play their teams, because we have enough numbers, and our numbers are strong enough that we can play just about every sport we have in-house. We have 1 or 2 sports each season that may struggle to produce enough folks to participate here locally. Girls softball and a couple others are typically issues that we have, but we can get you that information. We just need to better understand the outcome or the goal of what you want to analyze, so we can better present it, so we're not just chasing data.
Well, one of the things that came to me was, we know what the break-even number is for a house today, for the services we provide. What is that break-even number for, what's for each sport, do we know? What does that look like? I mean, you know, we know we're charging $90, you know, I assume there's the math behind it to say that that's.
So the county was actually created that cap for a while. Now, I'm
okay.
guessing since they're trying to get out of it, the cap is going to be released as far as what we can charge. There's always a maximum amount that they would allow us to charge a Cabarrus County resident, but I imagine they're not hitting that anymore as hard.
Right, and the limit's actually 125, and 90 is already one of the highest rates in the county. Concord's $40.
And then my other question is do we see kids that come in with financial hardship? And do we need to look at maybe some type of, I don't know.
Scholarship?
Right, abatement.
We offer those.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I
Yeah,
mean,
you
I
just
think
tell
it's,
us what you're looking for, because I think we have a lot of the data that we can provide you. So if it's the financial side of things, we have our athletic broken down to expenditures and revenues, and we can show that by sport and outline, you know, where we're making our money and where we're losing money.
So I think the cost of putting a child on the field, I think, is basically what you're looking for.
yeah, that and the numbers.
One
of
child on the
sports,
field,
other
what does
training.
it cost, and how much are they paying to that cost? Is it $90? Cost us $90, or do we make $5 for capital stuff?
No, we cover all of our hard costs with the exception of staff costs right now. We're real close to 100% on that. But I will say that the less participants you have, the more subsidies you need in your athletics. This is equal now.
And does any of the like Lando Frost money, does that go for the subsidies or? Okay.
So we'll put together some financial information, some participation information as well. Does that sound good?
And it will be ongoing. I mean, we're not going to purge the data after this year where we can't compare it year after year. I would think that would be very viable to be able to compare over 4 years, over 5 years.
Yeah, we can do it on an annual basis. Our issue is we have just recently switched software systems for our registration for our youth athletics, so it may be difficult for us to compare going back, 2 or 3 years because we just switched this past year. We will do our best. As I outlined, you're really asking a lot of staff to participate that data and to purge that data. So that's the biggest challenge that we will have, is you'll just need to give us some time to be able to generate that information.
And will it be uploaded to the Dropbox? Then that way they can find it all at one time, so we don't have to keep sending emails
Sure.
back and forth. More efficient.
Yep, we can do that.
So take a crack at it and see what we can produce off of one season, and then we can determine whether it meets the needs of some of the council members.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Sustainability Committee's meeting Wednesday at 6 o'clock. And I do have a request from somebody that hit me up after my last post. The Acorn lights on 49, not necessarily the ones inside the neighborhoods because they actually have a black top on top. the light pollution going up is something that we can transition at least on 49, because it obviously glows like a big halo.
I can barely get Duke Energy to repair the lights on 49. I can work with them. It's gonna
I mean, it's
be-
something that, I mean, we, obviously, because if it's a cost to us, there's,
Well, it would be a capital investment for the town. Maybe what I would recommend is, obviously, we're getting ready to, later this year, do the Highway 49 corridor landscape architecture plan for what it could look like to improve Highway 49. So that might be a part of that conversation and a part of that plan to upgrade those. But that's going to be a multi-year capital plan that we're going to need to put in place.
I'm leaving for Vegas.
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry, let's let this taken care of. Yes, sir.
Councilman Russo will not be able to attend the sustainability meeting. And I
Okay.
would like to extend an invitation to Mr. Patrick
Would you,
to sit in
Wednesday,
his
6
place.
o'clock, right here. Okay, thank you. Anything else?
I had a part B to the flag,
Sure.
action item. Consideration of what might be done with the other flag. It sounded like a gentleman did a lot of work to get it brought, and, you know, it had some importance at the Capitol. Maybe it could be presented to him or hang here or
One of the,
consider where.
yeah, good idea. So one of the recommendations that we had is, although it is 6 or 7 months away, is last meeting, we talked about reestablishing a flagpole at Harrisburg Park for the Hagler family, for the flagpole that was removed. So what we're going to be doing is relocating and switching some flagpoles around and moving a flagpole down to the multipurpose field area. That will be the Hagler family flagpole, and maybe we could transition the flag to that location.
Perfect. Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Got a motion on the floor, properly seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Who made the second? I don't remember.
John,
John.
outsiders?
Council, new councilman need to sign the oath of office.
Council members, be sure to take home a poinsettia here in front before you go. We adjourn?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
No.